Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa alaikum assalam, mashallah. Right, on behalf of IPCI and the Iqraa Trust, I warmly welcome all of you to this Bright Sparks Forum program. Alhamdulillah, today is the first of a series of 5 to 6 workshops that we're going to be having. So we are indeed very, very grateful that you could make yourself available, that the learners were chosen by their schools, the parents also made themselves available, so we are very, very grateful for that. What we'll do is we'll commence this morning with a qiraat by Hafiz Muhammad Junaid Ibrahim of the Phoenix Muslim School.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والحب ذو العصف والريحان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار وخلق الجان من مارج من نار فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان رب المشرقين ورب المغربين فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان مرج البحرين يلتقيان بينهما برزخ لا يبغيان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان جزاك الله.
MashaAllah, Muhammad Junaid, Jazakallah for that. Very quickly, I thought I'll just give you a brief overview of what this program is, because many of the parents and also possibly the learners don't really know what this program is about. You've received an invitation, you were chosen by your schools. So just to give you an outline, this program has been in existence now for 4 to 5 years. It's jointly sponsored by Iqraa Trust and IPCI. Previously, there was just one day, one Saturday. There was a high-profile Muslim successful person, whether a politician, whether he was a businessman, whether a professional, that person spoke and motivated and inspired the learners. And during the course of the day, there were 3 or 4 other professionals who also had workshops with the learners. But previously, it was just done on a one-day basis. The learners benefited from it. Hopefully, they implemented something and they went back to their schools. But what we decided to do this year is, instead of just having a one-off workshop, is going to be a series of workshops. So there's going to be 5 in all, the dates of which I'll give you towards the end of this of the day. And the whole idea is, whilst today we've got a full day, and I'll read to you what the program is all about for today. The idea is, during the course of the next 6 months, to interact with you on a regular basis, and every subsequent workshop to see what you have implemented. That's the main thing. If there's no implementation, then it's really a waste of time. So the whole idea is, we're going to have 5 one-day workshops, entire days. It will be here at this premises. And inshallah, depending on your progress, the results that we get from you, from your schools, also the survey that was carried on this morning and the post-survey that we're going to be doing, depending on your progress, you'll be retained into a second year next year. And those of you who are in grade 11, so you'll continue into grade 12. those of you who are in grade 10, you'll continue to grade 12, so 11 and 12. And we'll be mentoring you for the 2 or 3 years until you get to university. And even whilst at university, we'll put you through leadership and tarbiyah programs. So this is the whole idea. Today we've got a full day for you, and you've got a program in front of you. So what we're going to be doing in a moment is welcoming you on behalf of IPCI, and thereafter there's going to be a short presentation and motivation on behalf of Iqraa Trust. And thereafter, before the tea break, we'll get into the program itself. For about half an hour, that will take us to 10:15. From 10:15 to 11:45 will be the tea break. The parents are invited to join us for the whole day. But if you want to leave, maybe immediately after tea you could leave. After tea there'll be a second session, and that is from 11:45 to 12:15. This is going to the program itself. We'll be taking Zohar between 12:15 and 1:15, and we'll have lunch as well, and the Zohar will be read here. Thereafter, we're going to have the keynote address by Mr. Farouk Bayat, award-winning ex-school principal, and the program will continue in the afternoon. So you see, we've got a full day, and the format of future programs will depend on who is available, but we've got a program chalked out for you. So what I would like to do now is call upon Dr. Yusuf Osman to welcome you on behalf of IPCI. And what is very interesting, when I'm reading through the CVs of our guests today, it brings joy to the heart. Because here we've got professionals who've really made it in their fields. All the people who are going to be speaking to you today have really excelled in their particular field. So if you have a look at what Dr. Osman has achieved in these years since he's been in practice as a medical doctor, himself, one of his daughters and his wife are medical practitioners. He's been in practice, private practice, for about 19 years. He's been very, very heavily involved in the petrochemical industry, both here as well as in Qatar, where he worked for a year or two. He's heavily involved not only in medicine itself, but also on the health, occupational health and safety side in the different refineries in South Africa and abroad. He's also lectured at medical school at N.Ali. And what is very, very impressive is that throughout his life, he has not stopped learning. Right up to currently, he's busy in some courses, and he's just got a few modules outstanding to get another qualification. So besides his medical qualifications, he's got certificates, he's got diplomas, maybe about half a dozen of them, and he's just continuing. And later on, when I'm introducing Dr. Yusuf Baker of Iqraa Trust, you'll notice that he obtained his PhD just 2 years ago. Five years ago, okay, mashallah. Which shows that age is no criteria when it comes to furthering our education. Now, Dr. Yusuf's CV runs into a number of pages, but I think I just highlighted the main things that he has done. Just one or two other things. He's also been heavily involved in Islamic organizations from a very young age. He joined the MYM in 1974. He's a trustee of Islamic Dawah movement. He's a founder member of the Islamic Forum, trustee of the Islamic Center Trust. And what is very, very important for us as youth is to get involved in Islamic organizations. Not only Islamic organizations, but all organizations in which we are part of. This whole program is really based on three things. Firstly, character building, prophetic character. Secondly, soft skills, teaching you soft skills. And thirdly, leadership skills. So those few words, let me call now Dr. Yusuf Osman to welcome you on behalf of IPCI and also give you some words of advice. Dr. Yusuf.
On behalf of the Islamic Propagation Center International, I'd like to welcome you. I think this initiative is an excellent initiative that's been started, and I think we've been involved in the Islamic work for many years, and one of our failings has been producing leaders. And I really commend this program. It's, in fact, through my various Islamic organizations, recently I'm in Islamic Forum, and one of the initiatives I took in the forum, I said, you know what, every organization has this failing. We don't have a succession plan for leadership to take over. And I suggested to the forum that they form an Islamic Forum youth wing or a youth league. And I followed our political counterparts, like they have the Islamic, the ANC Youth League and the ANC Women's League, etc. And these all feed into this major organization. And I know for when we were involved very actively in the MYM was such feeder of leaders. If you look at all the major Islamic organizations in the country, whether it's SANZEF or IDM or IMA, they all came through the MYM. So the MYM was producing people. And I remember our director, Rashid Umar from Cape Town, saying, well, we're like a sausage factory. We're just producing the people. They can go out in the society and work in any organization to want to. And I hope that this becomes a forerunner of that kind of thing, producing leaders that will fill the organization. We're not under any illusions of wanting control, etc. You go there in wherever you are comfortable, whether it's a madrasa or whether it's a cemetery organization or whether it's a political organization. You need to be there to expound the Islamic values. The other thing that I want to just mention, I want to read this ayah of the Quran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم كتاب أنزلناه إليك مبارك ليدبروا آياته وليتذكروا أولو الألباب. This is a blessed book, it refers to the Quran, which we have revealed to you, O Muhammad, that they might reflect upon its verses, and that those of understanding would be reminded. And this is always you find it, tadabbaru, yazakkaru, tafakkaru, reflect on the Quran. And you know, I was reading this article about this mathematician who was given a Quran and who was an atheist. And he took this book to try and break it. In other words, what can he find fault with? Because he's an atheist. He says, well, somebody gave me this. Somebody wrote this book, and I don't believe it is a God that wrote it. And every argument that he presented to this book, the Quran broke it, one by one. You know, every prophet of Allah had a miracle. Isa alayhi salam had the miracle of curing people. Right? Musa alayhi salam had his hand and his staff that turned into a snake. The miracle of the Prophet ﷺ is the Quran. And it is a miracle as once I heard it described by somebody, almost like a Mona Lisa painting. You know, wherever you are, it's looking at you. Whatever you read, the Quran is talking to you. Whatever questions you ask, the Quran answers you. And this is, you need to be interactive with the Quran. Today we've reduced it to just reading when people die or when, etc. You know, we've lost its entire purpose. And I want to urge you to take this as your handbook and sometimes open it wherever you want to open it. Look at it. I'm personally going through a journey in myself about, and I'll tell you about this journey I'm going through, and I'm questioning the Quran. The political problems we're having, I said, what are the answers? You know, what is the answer? Because globally, communism, we know, came and fell. And capitalism seems to be on the rise. But with capitalism, unfettered capitalism, we're not getting joy, we're not getting distribution of wealth, we're not getting stronger. Even in America, there are slums. So, and I was grappling with this question, engaging the Quran and traveling also. I traveled to Kerala 2 years ago. And I found, and again, I'm reflecting on the whole issue, and then I found in Kerala, what amazed me was a poor province. Kerala is the size of KwaZulu-Natal. And yet it has a very low GDP, lower than South Africa's GDP. In other words, its earning power. And yet its health indices and education indices were higher, equal to the Europe and America. And I said, how can a poor country have literacy rate of almost 99%, men and women, unheard of anywhere in the world. In Kerala, and yet the province itself was more poor than Maharashtra, which is Bombay and all that sort of thing. Yet its health indices and its educational indices were high. I happened to go and see an aunt of my wife in Kerala, and it's a long trip we got to, but anyway, I can't go into that now. But we went to see an hospital and she broke her leg, and I went to see and examine the health system. It looked so good. I went to, because I'm in occupational medicine, I went to a factory, and I saw this factory producing a chemical called titanium dioxide, and outside the factory was a huge billboard, like a cricket scoreboard, and there were numbers running there. When I looked at it, because I had an interest in it, I could see what it was. It was a factory that was churning out the pollutants going into the effluent, and the stack is the air measurements outside to see what is the atmospheric pollution like, changing on a minute-to-minute basis. So I met the manager of the factory. I said, you know what, I'm highly impressed. I'm in occupational medicine. I've been to hundreds of factories, Dulux, Coca-Cola, Plascon, Toyota, etc. I've never seen this. And I come from a relatively progressive country in laws. He says, no, we want to make money, but we don't want to affect our workers, nor do we want to affect our environment. And I tried to find an answer. And while I was in Kerala, Fidel Castro died. And then I saw the love they had for Fidel Castro. And then I picked up that socialism was strong here. And I said, you know what, it looks like socialism is the answer. And then when I studied Cuba, I found Cuba had a similar GDP to Kerala, and yet its health indices were superior to that of America. Right in its doorstep, it had better health indices, infant mortality, etc., the age at which children die, how often they die, etc., than the United States. And I realized, but anyway, so I was going through this reflection, and I couldn't find the answers, and I said, well, it looks like socialism is the answer, because capitalism has failed us dismally in the States and in the rest of the world, and of course here. So, and then I went to Bosnia the following year, and how I found each trip kind of reflecting on this issue kind of gave me and I went to the place, the museum for Ali Izetbegovic. Ali Izetbegovic was the leader of Bosnia. And then I had a book of Ali Izetbegovic in my bookshelf, which I hadn't read for years. I said, when I come back home, I must read it. And I came back and I started reading Ali Izetbegovic's book, which is called Islam Between East and West. If you can get hold of it, it's heavy reading. I'm finding it, I only can read like one chapter at a time, but it is heavy reading. But basically what he's saying, that he compares religion and he compares materialism. And materialism, he put capitalism and communism under one. And religion, he put Christianity. And he said, Islam is between these two. Because the religious find us too secular, because we're talking about the world, and the secularists find us too religious because we're talking about prayer and obligations. So he said, but we are the answer. And here was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed man in the middle of Europe propounding Islam as a way of life. And I found it so inspiring. I said I had to come all this way and into Europe to find my answer from a man who was European by all measure. If you look at him in the street, you know, he would pass like any European man in the middle of Europe, basically. And then I'm trying to say, well, look, socialism or something like that. He spoke about UK, etc., etc. And then when I came back at the Islamic Forum, we had two guests from the United States. And I realized they almost responding to my question, as it were. And they said, you know what? The man said, he described all the mosques he saw in the world. You see, when we go to a place, we impose our culture. But when he showed us the mosques of China, they look like the normal Chinese thing. He showed us a mosque in Morocco. He showed us a mosque in Russia, would look like the Kremlin. So then he says, this is how it should be. In other words, you need to adopt the local culture, etc., right? And then, of course, you had the second speaker, and then one thing that he actually threw more light on it. And then I realized that it's the component that needs to be there in the order you have must be spirituality and justice. So whether, I've come to that conclusion in my mind, I'm still kind of finally formulating this. In other words, whatever ism you have, whether even if you're having a king, if he's just and he's spiritual, that's fine. You're not going to tell the Zulu king, look here, I want you to have communism here, because that is the way of life. If he has justice and he has truth and he has morality, that's fine. If you have capitalism but you have justice, no paying slave wages, and you have morality, yes, you can have leave, yes, you're having a baby, we will forgive you for working here, go home and breastfeed, if there is justice. Because in my further research, I found that no matter what, even in Kerala, I found they had a problem of alcoholism and depression because they lack the spiritual component of life. And I realized in Islam, we need to have this with a morality, a spirituality, and I think we mustn't now feel shy as leaders to propose and expound these views. But we need to study the alternatives so that we know what we're talking against. And so I really want to leave you with this message. In other words, do not feel shy to interrogate, approach the Quran, ask your questions and wait for the answers. Allah reveals himself to you in ways that you will only realize when you engage the Quran. And remember, for the sisters, there is no fear to interrogate, whether it's the advocates here. I was a bit intimidated when I saw so many advocates and directors of banks and all around over here, right? Don't feel, ask in a humble manner, but ask, interrogate. Remember, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ was setting up camp in one of the battles, and one of the Sahabas came to him and says, Ya Rasulullah, is this your decision? Or is it the decision of Allah? If it's the decision of Allah, khalas, I'm not going to tell you anything. Is it your decision? He says, no, it's my decision. He says, can I suggest we set up there, because behind us will be the well, so we'll have access to our water. And the Prophet said, good idea. Now, what I'm saying, here was a man, an ordinary Sahaba, went to the Prophet and look, can I give you a better suggestion? Right? So do not, in the time of Hazrat Umar radiallahu anh, the mahr was going out of hand. You know, like in Saudi now it's gone like 500,000 riyals. So the men don't marry Saudi women, they're going marrying Morocco women, etc., etc. It's becoming a problem. So in the time of the Prophet, Hazrat Umar radiallahu anh, he said, no, I want to fix this mahr. And the lady stood up and said, can Umar fix what Allah and his Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam left open? Now, if the man is giving me more mahr, why are you depriving me of it? That is it, you know. And she said, woman is right and Umar is wrong. Now, in other words, two things it tells you. That they were in the masjid and they were not afraid to address the leader. So do not be afraid. Interrogate. This is, no other religion tells you. Everyone else tells you, don't read any other books. Do not ask questions. Just follow. Islam is not that. Islam tells you to read, to reflect, to think, to ask questions. I hope you have a wonderful session over here, inshallah. And I pray to Allah that Allah gives you a lot of blessings and barakah, inshallah, to be our leaders of the future, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Yusuf, for those inspiring words. A point that Dr. Yusuf has made is one of the reasons why we've got this program, and that is those who are in our generation, this is the retiring generation, even your parents, lots of them are in organizations, Islamic organizations and community organizations, and it's time for us to retire. However, there's not sufficient people replacing us. Studies in America found that in the corporate world, where the baby boomers, they call it, those people who are over 50 years of age, they are retiring or they are dying, and there's only 30% of leaders taking their place, which means that 70%, they don't know where to find them. And in our experience, what we found is that if the next generation is not sufficiently equipped. If you look at the generation below that, they're even worse equipped. And if you look at the generation below that, those who are in university now, they're even worse equipped to take the positions of those who are retiring. And that is why one of the reasons that IPCI, Iqraa Trust and the Young Leaders Academy, of which I am involved, we've got together is the whole idea is that we need to build a pipeline of leaders. Over the few years, we need to mentor them. And you are very, very fortunate that you are part of this pilot project, which is now going to go on for a few years. Out of thousands, hundreds of students from your school, you have been selected. Out of thousands of students throughout KZN, the Muslim schools, just 50 of you have been selected. So you are very, very, very fortunate. So, inshallah, this is the reason also why we've got this program, in order to develop you. Remember, not everyone is a leader. Leaders are not born. Leaders are made. Leaders are developed. Leaders are mentored. But even then, not everyone will end up being a leader. So the idea is to give you the leadership skills. So inshallah, one day when you end up in a leadership position, you will have the skills. That's the whole idea. Now, with regard to your attendance, alhamdulillah, invitations went out to 11 or 12 different schools. And we've got representation here from Verulam Islamic School, Phoenix Muslim School, Masakane Girls Secondary, Escort Islamic School, Ihsan Girls College, Zakaria Muslim School in Stanger, and MA Motala students who are in Orient. So alhamdulillah, we've got a good cross-section, both males and females. But when we are talking before the program began about the problem that we have in our community really, and that is that we don't have sufficient males getting involved in anything. Especially if we look at it at school level, I am involved in leadership training at 3 different organizations, and my experience is it's always the girls who come forward. Even when it is fully paid for, it doesn't cost the parents anything, and when letters of motivation are requested by the schools from the learners, generally about 80% of the people who put in letters of motivation are the girls. The boys, in fact, there's a disaster, really, it's a real disaster. In another organization that I'm involved, and we are looking for males and females, and we knew which will be the majority. I insisted on getting from an Islamic boys' school. At least then you get only boys coming in. But even if you look here, I'm not sure about the numbers, but at least about 3/4 are girls. So it's really an indictment. In fact, another institution I was involved with recently, and we had one of the workshops last week, and we had about 31 learners, 21 of them were girls. And one of the parents who teaches in that particular school, and this opportunity was given even to that school. So the father who teaches in the school, he said, I'm very disappointed that my son is not involved. I asked, what grade is your son in? He said, my son is in grade 11. I said, well, he was given an opportunity. The principal came round. He invited nominations. He invited people to put in their motivation. Obviously, your son didn't pick up his hand. So I think it's very, very important for us as parents also to try and emphasize, whilst the girls are excelling, the boys, unfortunately, are not keeping up to the pace. And if you really look at the results, metric results, over many years, if it's Muslims who are in the top few, it's normally the girls and not the boys. So there's something really drastically wrong. And the excuse previously was maybe our boys are involved with hifz and so forth. The girls are also as much involved in hifz now. So that excuse doesn't stand. So I think so the parents must really try and emphasize on getting our boys involved. Right, with those few words, I now call upon, but before that, I'd like to introduce Dr. Mahmoud Yusuf Baker, good friend of mine. We go back many, many years. We've even been involved together in different organizations. Dr. Baker is an Egyptian. He's got various qualifications. He's got a BSc in Economics and Political Science from Cairo University, a diploma in project appraisal and implementation at the Arthur D. Little Management Institute of Boston, Massachusetts, diploma in small and medium scale industries in Africa at the German Foundation for International Development in West Germany, and recently he's got his international fellowship on globalization in a changing world, Columbia University in New York. And as I was saying, there's no end to learning. Recently, I was doing another program for ulama, and Mufti Bayat was there. And Mufti Bayat was giving a talk and motivation to the young alims. And he said, once you finish Darul Ulum, the education doesn't end. Education has to be right up to your last day. So here's a typical example of both very professional people in their fields, but both of them right up to recently, they have been busy with their qualifications or enhancing their qualifications. As far as Dr. Baker's employment history is concerned, it's quite a checkered history. He was a credit officer at DIB Bank in Cairo, Egypt. Thereafter, for many years, he was the economic advisor of the Dala Al Baraka Group in Saudi Arabia. Now, the Dala Al Baraka Group are the owners of Al Baraka Bank South Africa, as well as Al Baraka Banks on 5 continents, and they've got over 400 or 500 branches, and they've got over 40,000 staff. So Dr. Baker was the personal economic advisor to Sheikh Saleh Kamel, who was the owner of the Dala Al Baraka Group. So he was the economic advisor for Sheikh Saleh for many years. He was based originally in Saudi Arabia, and he traveled many countries looking at financial opportunities for the Dala Al Baraka Group, and that is how eventually he ended up in South Africa representing the Dala Al Baraka Group. He was an ex-director of Al Baraka Bank for 24 years, representing the Dala Al Baraka Group. Currently, he's very heavily involved in social upliftment, community activities, through being the chairman of the Iqraa Trust. Now, many of you might be aware of it. Iqraa Trust is one of the many Islamic organizations in KZN that give bursaries, scholarships to our deserving kids. So he's been involved in this organization for many years, not only bursaries, but also funding major projects running into millions of rands. And he's also the CEO of Bramford Investments. So those few words, I call upon Dr. Baker to welcome you on behalf of Iqraa Trust. Iqraa Trust, as I mentioned earlier, and IPCI are funding this whole project, and also to give you some words of advice. Dr. Baker.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good to see you indeed. I just want to start by thanking IPCI and the management and my dear friend Advocate Mohammed Farouk, Muhammad Khan also, for organizing this program. I think they deserve a big round of applause. So please join me. By the way, it's not haram to appreciate anything by clapping. I don't know, I noted that when Dr. Yusuf finished, it was only me that clapping for him. It's not haram at all. It's really a good way to show that we liked what the speaker was talking about. If you keep quiet, how would you know? Actually, while Muhammad was talking about the girls in the Muslim schools, it strikes my mind that every year when we come here, we talk, we don't ask you about your, if you have any problems, anything that we can help with, we can design the program accordingly. So maybe I have an idea that please, I want every one of you please on a piece of paper just to write any issue he has in mind, like it troubles him. Then we can design the next program accordingly to discuss your own problems, actual problems. Rather than we come and we give you advice, we don't know whether it's really what you expect from us. So I think to be practical, may I request that we do this year. So please write and deliver it to us after the meeting. I am expert in what's so-called behavioral economics, where we try to see how to motivate people and how to address their problems, how to direct them and put them in the right direction. So we may give you some good advice when we know what you have really. At Iqraa Trust, we assist hundreds of organizations and hundreds of students to further their academic studies every year. And we work throughout the whole country, all provinces. But the most interesting part in our activity is meeting with university students in all campuses in the country. And I am keen myself, whenever I have time, to interview many of them and their parents to know exactly how they think and what we can do to motivate them. So that's why I'm very happy to talk to you today. Maybe on one of the major issue or the problem or big distractions you have, we noticed this, is the social media and smartphones, internet, gaming, all this stuff. This is really started even to affect many of our students. We had students who were very, very good indeed, and suddenly we noted that their performance is declining. And when we meet with them, I usually meet with them without their parents when I discuss this issue. You see that they spend big time on the internet. It's like an addiction now, and the social media. And they have excuse because they are flooded with hundreds of SMS or messages or clips coming from WhatsApp, from Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, so many things, yeah. And these people, they design their programs, those big social media. They are using very sophisticated algorithm, and also they use behavioral economics. So they know how to attract you and invite you to spend big time with them. But this is a big problem. And also we noted that it started to have sort of, it causes like sort of stress and the mental health problems and depression, because you spend, imagine, many of you, I'm sure you have also this issue. Let's be frank about it, yeah. You spend hours looking at your smartphone and checking. So it's really, it's not a good thing at all. We also, there is sort of correlation, they say, many studies made for in this regard. There is a correlation between the social media and smartphones and the depression and stress. Although as an economist, I have to be very careful when we establish this kind of correlation, because correlation is not causation. In other words, they say, yeah, it's internet and this causes depression and stress, but it could be the other way if you look carefully. Some people, they have stress already for many reasons in this difficult life, and they seek refuge or escape in social media. But it's not you, it's not your category. This is like for us, people who work and exposed to so many difficult. Then sometimes we try to seek, sort of escape when we access this. But for you, it's a different correlation. So again, it's a serious problem indeed, and I wanted to give you some advice in this regard. I believe that through also behavioral economics, if we can motivate, if you are motivated to go to play cricket or to attend a cricket match or a rugby match, and you stand in queues to go inside the stadium and spend the whole day just to watch a match of cricket, I think we can motivate you to do something good for your future, for your country, for your family. Can you think of this? Is it possible? It's possible, yeah. If you are motivated just to waste this big time to attend a match, I think we can motivate you. But we have an issue with the government, because we wanted to reorganize, the media in a way to use it productively. But it's a big battle here, it's a big issue. Again, the issue also with the social media, that it has a very bad, impact on the way we behave sometimes and the way we react. Every year when I come here, I used to ask your predecessors, like they call it tricky questions, but I ask them to help me in my studies. One of the questions, Muhammad Khan, where is he? Is he? He likes this question. When I asked it 2 years ago, I think, I asked the attendants, hypothetically assume that a sinking boat with 3 people on board, 1 Christian, 1 Muslim, and 1 Jewish. So again, it's a sinking boat with these 3 people. And they started to pray to their God to save them. And then I asked the students, who will survive? Some of them said all 3, some said Muslims. I did not get the right answer. The right answer is simply, he will survive who can swim, right? But what I did is I managed to distract their attention, take it to the wrong. Our mind is divided into many sections. One of them is the rational mind. So I managed to manipulate that mind and take them to another direction. I made it a religious issue. It's not. So when I took them to that direction till they started to give wrong answers. But if I put the issue the right way, I would ask them, 3 people on board of a sinking boat, who will survive? Immediately the rational mind will kick in and they will say, of course, who can survive, right? So I'm showing you an example of what the social media do. They do this. They use these algorithms and the behavioral economics to attract you to just to keep spending hours on this social media. And they made money out of this. And they use what's so-called the big data. It's very, very advanced thing. It's not easy. So now it's started to, when it starts to impact on your future, I think you have to think twice. You have to be organized. You have to deal with this issue. And that's why I will give you some advice. And even, it's progressing the social media now, and they started to go for what's called the facial expression. So now in future, this is really a serious thing, because in future, when you go for an interview, applying for a job, they will not need to ask you so many questions, because they will record the expressions of your body language, your face, and then they can know how you think. Imagine they can penetrate your mind. So this is very big development. And it's happening now. So it's really, there is what, somebody will talk about the 4th industrial revolution. I think they will handle this element as well. Anyway, my advice to you is, I personally do this. When I don't allow social media in our offices at all. So all access to this blocked in the office, including me, myself. Only when I go home, I usually go home late, I spend 1 hour maximum, because I receive important stuff from my academic colleagues. They send something through, it's not gaming, I don't have time for gaming and this, but I have to check. But it's only 1 hour. And immediately I can recognize that this is rubbish. Just delete, 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 and only I read the good stuff. So try, please, to be organized and allocate 1 hour maximum. Then you can do, I will tell you what else you can do. But we have some parents here, right? So at home, I like the parents to set an example. It's not fair that we as parents to ask our kids to do something and we do otherwise. We tell them, no, don't waste big time on social media. And we see them playing with their smartphone for hours. It doesn't make sense. So they must set a good example, and then it will work. I have an my auntie when I was young. She was very strict with her kids, 3. After summer holiday during the school year, no TV at all. They wrap it and put it in a cupboard, finish for the whole year, school year. And now you can see, and she put like very strict with them. Now, one of them is a professor at Oxford University. He's my cousin. I used to teach him when I was young. I'm older than him. And the other one is a doctor, and the third one is an engineer. She passed away last year. But they were all very successful indeed. This is because the parents helped them to organize their time. So I request all parents, please, to try to help in this problem. Now, one of the beautiful hobbies that you must try is reading. Iqra means read, as you know. Iqra means read. So try reading. Reading, actually, you will enjoy it more than the social media. If you buy a good book or a good magazine, like I like The Economist, for example, I'm a subscriber. It's really, but it's not, it's heavy stuff for you. But you'll find something interesting to you. If you go to Exclusive Books or CNA, you will see beautiful things. And it will help you to improve your career. Because when you apply for a job after graduation, you go for an interview, we usually ask about your hobbies. And those that they like reading, they have a very good opportunity to secure a good job for a very good salary. So reading is very, very important indeed. Try reading, yeah. So enjoy social media, I'm not saying anything, but organize yourself. And also parents must allow their kids to hang out a little bit with their friends. Because now they are completely isolated. They don't mix with the other, they don't have, it's very difficult for them to make friendship. Even in Europe, they have the same problem. So it's time to, some parents may say it's risky. No, but you know their friends and you know their parents. But allow them, it's less risky than leaving them behind the closed door, playing all the time with their smartphones. They will have access to undesirable information and the clips which can destroy their life. So please encourage them to mix with their friends. Also, if you know that they use their computer at home to access this thing, don't allow them to close their room. In my office, if you come to my office, all the stuff, they have to put their computers, the screen facing the door. And if you come to my office, before you see me, you will see my screen. I set a good example in this regard. It's facing, if you wanted to put it this way and hide it here, that means you are doing something wrong. If you are doing something good, why don't you want to show it to us? Put your screen so if I come suddenly, I can see the screen. If you are keen to hide it, that means you are doing something. Don't allow this. One of the things now I noticed that you are not taking any notes. If you are learning anything from what I'm saying, I want to see you next time having like a pen and the note and just write down. But just to listen, you will forget. So this is my worry. Next time, please be keen to give them a writing pad.
No, they got everything. They got it in the bags.
Okay, but I'm surprised that nobody tried to take any notes. Anyway, it's a good habit. We have at the universities here many workshops. And when I go, for them, I like to listen to my academic friends when they talk. Sometimes they say something good, so I like to write it down. So it's a good habit. Whenever you go for any lecture or anything, just to take notes. It's very important. I think my time is almost up. I just, wanted to finish. I have so many things to do, but time is running very quickly. Anyway, when also my last advice is we now in this era of huge data and big data and information, try always to apply your common sense and try to initiate your logical mind to work. Don't accept anything for granted, even what I'm saying now. Think about it. If it makes sense, okay. If your logical mind or rational mind doesn't accept it, don't go for it. Remember always that in the knowledge, the act of knowledge, it's made of two main components. It's facts and opinion. And actually, the opinion represents the major part of the knowledge. Imagine that it represents about 70%. So in other words, that when we like any idea or any fact, it represents about 30%. But it's loaded with our opinion. And our opinion is a subjective thing. So when somebody comes and tells you, no, I'm telling you the facts, don't believe in him. Because again, it's the fact is expressing, yes, he has a factual part, but it's loaded with his own opinion and his personal experience. We get like motivated when we like an idea and we try to promote it vigorously and push for it. So anyway, my last advice to you is when you read, when you listen to anyone, try to think logically and apply your common sense. I hope you learned something of what I said. And next time, inshallah, how many of you here are grade 12? The majority grade 11 or what? Grade from like grade 10. Please raise your hands. I want to get a feel. Okay, 11. So the majority 11, yeah. Okay, that's good. This is the right age actually to talk to. Again, I hope that please think of your career. And at university, we say if we manage to educate one student the right way, he will have a very positive impact on his siblings and his family. And he can help his younger siblings to study. And so we want you to take it as a message. This is the time, you know, to sacrifice, you know, a few things that you enjoy. Look at the bigger picture in order to secure a good career. With this, I wish you all the best and a nice meeting all of you indeed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Baker. Those were some real good words of advice. For those of you, you heard what Dr. Baker stated. You are supposed to be taking notes. I'm sure all of you got writing pads. Please take them out with the pens. And some of the points that stood out for me, and maybe you can just put it down in bullet form so you can, when you go home, you'll recall what it was. You just be a bit careful with social media because it could be very distracting. Right, so we just have to be a bit careful with the way in which we spend our time on social media. The second very important point is about the importance of reading. And this is something that we're going to be emphasizing during the course of today and the next few workshops that we're going to be having. The importance of reading. If you really want to open up your mind and improve your grades as well, you'll have to do as much reading as possible. A few other points about the practical aspect about having the screens facing the door. I noticed when I go to Dr. Baker's office, the screens are normally facing the door, and I did not know why it was so. But what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be just taking 1 minute's break.
Almighty Allah has blessed us all with gifts, ni'mas. Some of us have gifts by way of intelligence, some may be beauty, some may be in different spheres. Almighty Allah has gifted us. We all of you, the fact that you are here, the bright sparks, you are achievers. In your achievement, you must remember always to remain humble. You are seeing people here today in front of us, Dr. Osman, Dr. Baker, Advocate Bayat, simple, humble, extremely professional, knowledgeable people. In all our achievements, we must remember, no matter what we achieve, to be humble. In Surah Dukhan, Almighty Allah tells us that those who are righteous people are rewarded with Jannat al-Firdaus, gardens of bliss, and that is the highest achievement. So no matter what you achieve, you can achieve nothing higher than that. And that must humble us, so that whatever we achieve, we got a long way to go to get to that point. So we must remain humble. A few years ago, a very well-known professor at a conference similar to this was being honored because of his vast knowledge. And the professor, a humbler man that he was, he responded that knowledge is so vast, and the more you know, the more you realize how little you know. And therefore, one has to be humble. My simple message to everybody is, no matter what you achieve in life, remain humble. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.
What we're going to be doing now is, now we're going to get into the program itself. Okay, so just some rules of engagement before we actually commence after tea is, please, there must be no distractions either through cell phones, iPads or otherwise. Nothing at all. So if you've got your cell phones, please put them on silent or put them off completely. During the tea break, lunch break, you'll get an opportunity to catch up, right? And the focus is on self-development. We're here to improve ourselves, not other people. So it's self-development. That's the focus going to be. This is not a gripe session. You come from different schools. Some of you come, many of you from one school. Maybe your parents here, maybe a teacher might be here. So this is not that purpose. Furthermore, whatever you say within these four walls will remain within these four walls, totally confidential. So from time to time, you'll be expressing what's in your heart, etc. Be assured that it will remain within these walls. So please, we need that undertaking from all of you. What's very important is, out of the 5 seminars or workshops we're going to be having, if anyone is absent for 2 seminars without a valid reason, you will not get a certificate at the end of the program. Okay? And what we're going to do in future is, instead of communicating with your schools, we're going to communicate directly with you, right? Because we need to teach each other responsibility. So those of you who haven't given us your email addresses, Mohammed Khan will be coming around later. He'll get your email addresses. If not your, maybe your parents' email address. Some of you have just given us the whole school for one email address from the school. That's not good enough for us, right? So try and give us your own email addresses. We'll communicate directly with you. And we need prompt responses, please, right? Now, what's very important is, in anything we do, the intention with which we do it. So I'm not sure what intention you came here, but the intention that we need to have are the following. Firstly, I will listen attentively, try to understand what is being said, and as Dr. Baker stated, if I do not know